Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight I want to welcome back to the show Cory Hughes and Charlie Robinson. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
It's another day in quarantine.
Yes, it is. Tonight, I'd love to discuss this awesome conference that's about to happen in a couple of weeks, May 28th through 31st. Whoopsie. It's going to be online. You don't even have to leave your house. There's going to be 14 amazing speakers, and the price now is only $49.99. If you guys have any questions about the conference, feel free to leave those in the chat. It's going to be as interactive as possible. The speakers will have the ability to do PowerPoint presentations, and you will have the ability as the audience to field questions after each presentation. We're still working on exactly what software we're going to be using. We should have that done by tomorrow or early in the week. And Cory, do you have anything to add about the technical side of what we're going to be doing?
Yeah, so right as it stands right now, the tickets are discounted $20 through, I believe, 5 days before the conference. I think that's when I have it set to expire. Anyone who's already purchased tickets who wants to take advantage of that, of the discount, we're going to end up hooking you up really fat. So we're still kind of discussing how we're going to go about doing that, but you're going to get the people who paid the full price so far are going to get access to probably the testing of the new platform, and probably a bunch of other goodies we're going to throw in to make up that difference. But tickets are on sale now at fkncon.live. There is a $20 coupon code that you have to enter in order to get the discount. So make sure, and it's right there next to the shopping cart, so you can't miss it. But this is going to be an amazing conference. We put a lot of time and effort into this so far, and really there's been nothing like this that I have found yet. So it's going to be a very unique experience, and everybody should go out and get tickets. I know times are hard, but they're kind of hard for all of us and the speakers as well. So this is an opportunity to help them out big time. So definitely get your tickets as soon as possible.
Yes, definitely. And again, if anybody has any questions, leave them in the chat. Charlie, anything you'd like to add about the conference? Any previews of your presentation or anything?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing an outline on a new book that I have coming out with Jeff Berwick. It's called The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. We thought it would be out by now. Once the whole COVID-19 situation kicked in, we slammed the brakes on and waited to publish it until we were able to add a full chapter about this current event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down, do a presentation on what the book is going to be like. For those that don't know, I wrote a book called The Octopus of Global Control. This is book number 2. And Jeff Berwick, who is my co-author on this, he is the dollar vigilante, crypto vigilante, and he is the founder of Anarchapulco, an anarchist conference that's been going on for 6 years in Acapulco, Mexico, that's had guys like Ron Paul and David Icke and outstanding speakers throughout the years come and speak there. So Jeff and I together came out of a conversation I had with him on his show, The Anarchast, which is an anarchist podcast. And after we got done, he said, I got this idea, man. I got an idea for a book. And what do you think? Would you want to team up and do this? And I liked what he had to say. I know who he is. I like him. I like his style. I like that he gives a big middle finger to every sort of establishment, which of course I'm in favor of. So between the two of us, he's the hardcore anarchist with the financial background. I've got I'm a writer with also a real estate background. And what we were able to do is we were taking a look at the United States in its you know, the way it is set out, not the way we're told to perceive it, but how it actually works. And part of that means that you have to dig into the finances behind it. You know, if somebody tells you, oh, I'm rich, but they've just got, you know, $1 million house that they bought with no money down and a Ferrari that they put on a credit card, are they really rich? They look like they're rich, but they're really in debt, like up to their eyeballs. And so when you start to peel back the layers of what the United States is, on the surface, it's all blingy and glamorous and wealthy, and we've got money for this, and we got money to give away to foreign countries, and we have money to spend on $1,800 toilet seats and all these sort of weird expenditures. But when you dig into it, if you do a forensics examination of the finances of this country, what you'll find is that the United States is totally broke. Has been broke for a long, long time. It's a house of cards, and it is ready to come down. So the prospect that Jeff and I put to each other, that we sat down and tried to work out amongst ourselves before we wrote this book, was, all right, this whole thing is coming down. This American empire is coming down. That is undeniable. The question is it accidental? Is it a function of just recklessness? Or is this intentional? And when we get through the book, you'll know where we stand on that. You'll know the reasons why we believe the things that we believe. We make the comparison in this book that if you were rigging a building for demolition, the process of rigging that building, identifying the foundation, prepping the floors, installing the explosives, and then moving away and pushing down the plunger, these are some of the same methods that have been used to rig this country for collapse. And so we explore all the ways in which it has been laid out, and the way the United States empire has been used up, has been exploited, and then ultimately will come down in its own footprint, much like Building 7. So it'll be fascinating. It's the first look people will get at this, as far as, you know, we've got it this close. I did a brief summary of it at Anarchapulco this year, and we had a lot of people talking about it afterwards, obviously, since Jeff was involved in it. So the book will be out soon. We're about a month away from putting it out for good. So this will be a nice little introduction. I think people will enjoy the presentation no matter what, whether they buy the book or not. But I think after you hear it, you'll be like, oh, I got to check this out, because it's you know, we brought up some obscure points in this. We dug into some real details to figure out who's involved and what they have up their plan, and why too. Most importantly, why would they take this whole thing down? And so we think we put together a pretty good case for that, and I'm sure people will enjoy it. So.
Now, Charlie, I posted your promo for your presentation, which is titled "The Realities of the Kennedy Assassination," and you have done some fascinating, amazing research that I don't think any, especially not many that I've heard of, many researchers have gotten to some of the points that you've gotten to, and you know, some of the things that you've uncovered. So if you want to maybe give a little bit more of a teaser about your presentation, go ahead.
Sure. This has been an interesting week research-wise, because I'm doing a lot of focusing on I'll call them the primary knoll shooter, because there were a total of 3 rifles on the knoll, at least 3, that I can prove there were 3. Now, how many of them fired? I can tell you there was one on the overpass. The one on the overpass did not fire. I'll actually give you a little more detail on that. That rifle was handed off to a guy named Daniel Wayne House. Daniel Wayne House takes the rifle, gets in his car, drives away. Somewhere along the way, he does a car swap, and then he's eventually arrested at his home in Fort Worth. And he plays the "I don't know what you're talking about" card. And of course, everybody, all 22 plus people who got arrested in Dealey Plaza, who got cut loose, you know, same thing. Oh, they got their guy. Guess we can go now. Except for one person. There was one person who was arrested in Dealey Plaza who was held until December 8th. on December 2nd, their potential charges for being involved in the assassination were dropped and changed to local charges because they wanted to keep holding this guy because they knew he was up to something. They couldn't prove what. By the 8th, he was released. I will go over that at the presentation. I've done a ton of research into my primary shooter on the Knoll, who, in reference to 9/11, was directly, if not involved, he was an overseer. And he provided oversight for the financial transactions that allowed 9/11 to happen. Of course, 9/11 was done by Israel, just like everything else, because that's always how it is. It's always them. I don't care what you're talking about. Name a horrific event in American history going back to World War II, and it's always them. After they killed Kennedy, they felt entitled, they felt emboldened, like they could do anything, and so far nobody has proved them wrong yet. So that's my teaser for this week.
Very good. Now we have 12 other amazing presenters. I'm going to kind of list those off, and I'm going to list the date and time that they're going to be presenting. To start off, on Thursday, May 28th, we have Jonny Enoch, and he will be presenting from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the presentations are going to be Eastern Standard Time. He will be presenting about Stargates, Serpentine energy, and an ancient esoteric knowledge. And then next we have Charlie Robinson from 7 to 8 p.m. From 8 to 9:30 p.m., we have Brad Olson. He'll be discussing the mysteries and anomalies of Antarctica and South America.
I'm so into that. That'll be so great. I want to hear that so bad.
Oh, yeah, he did a great presentation at UFO MegaCon.
Oh, I love the Antarctica topic.
From 9:30 to 11 p.m., we have J.P. Haig. His presentation is the case and evidence for the ultra-terrestrials and the super spectrum. He's had fascinating contact experiences. Then we go to Friday, May 29th. First up, we have Doug Valentine from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Cory, I know he's going to be doing a little bit of a presentation on CIA psychological warfare, but do you have any other information on what he's going to be presenting?
Well, Doug's expertise is really the CIA in general and their functionality, really the ins and outs and nuts and bolts of how they work, how they get away with what they get away with. And his first book was Hotel Tacloban, followed by the Phoenix Project. The Phoenix Project was, of course, the Vietnam assassination program. It wasn't really the first assassination program we had, but it was the biggest to date. It involved guys like Ted Shackley and Siragusa and a bunch of guys from the FBN back in the old days. Jean-Pierre Lafitte was involved. And then moving forward, you have his books on the Federal Bureau of Narcotics and the drug trade. Strength of the Wolf and Strength of the Pack cover how the United States went from tolerating drug trafficking going on under their noses to becoming the world leader in drug trafficking. Most people don't realize that the DEA came about in the 1970s under Nixon. And within like 2 years, the entire upper management of the DEA had been taken over by the CIA. They targeted high-level positions. They targeted internal affairs. So when anything popped up, they could immediately squash it. And that's how things have run to this very day. His latest book is The CIA as Organized Crime, where he pretty much goes into how the CIA is not really a rogue agency. They are backed fully by Congress. Everything they do has been legalized by Congress. So all the crimes they commit technically under Congress are legal. So it's legal for them to function in an illegal state. Recently he just put out an audio, or he's in the process of doing an audio book. I just finished the mastering for it, all the editing and mastering for it. It's called TDY. And basically that is an amazing story. That is a story of how the Pentagon during Vietnam sent an undercover team to go bust the CIA in a drug deal. And it was successful, but they got all the evidence and they never busted them. They just collected the evidence and that was it. lost a bunch of guys. A bunch of guys died for it. But that is Doug's latest project. He'll probably talk about a combination of everything. And he has 2 new interviews on YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and look up Doug Valentine, you'll see 2 new interviews pop up, part 1 and 2. They are amazing. They will probably cover the majority of what he talks about.
Awesome. So much looking forward to that. Okay, and then also on Friday, we go to from 7 to 8 p.m. Matthew LaCroix. His presentation is reviewing a 200,000-year timeline of history, sophistication of lost civilizations, disasters of the Younger Dryas, and that is it, and more about lost civilizations. And then next from 8 to 9:30 p.m. we have Barry Littleton. He'll be sharing his contact experiences and how the modalities of contact don't conform to mainstream accounts. From 9:30 to 11 p.m., Deep Prasad. He is amazing quantum physicist. He's going to be discussing the implications of increased UFO sightings during a pandemic. We're going to Saturday, May 30th, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. James Keenan is discussing the mysterious Utah Basin, portals, and the Skinwalker Ranch. Then we go to 3:30 to 5 p.m. Dean McMurray, the military medium. He's going to be discussing psychic modalities and doing an hour of live psychic readings. And then from 6 to 8 p.m., Cory Hughes. Now we're going to Sunday, the 31st, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is Laura Eisenhower. Her discussion is the global showdown of forces, ongoing competing agendas, and protecting our human sovereignty. From 1 to 3 p.m., Karen Holton, the Intergalactic Resettlement Program. What is it, what to expect, and how to prepare. From 3:30 to 5:30 p.m., Billy Carson and Matthew LaCroix will be giving a dual presentation on ancient civilization, secret text, energy, Anunnaki archons, nature of reality, and anomalies of space and Mars. And then from 6 to 8 p.m., we have Billy Carson. He'll be the final presentation. His is how to activate the law of attraction, quantum physics, and esoteric wisdom that will help to create our reality. And again, that is May 28th through 31st online. You don't have to leave your house. It's only $49.99. Go sign up right now. fkncon.live. It's going to be the best event of 2020. I mean, you can't beat this. You get to watch these amazing presenters from the comfort of your own home, in your underwear if you want to. It's going to be great. Now, for the remainder of the show, we can get to any current events or topics. I know Cory has a few things about the current COVID numbers that are, of course, fucky as usual. And we'll see if Charlie has anything to add or something else to discuss. But let's start with you, Cory. What do you have about these retarded COVID numbers here?
Well, a couple things. I'm having a difficult time tracking flu deaths post April 4th because technically that's the end of flu season. So I have a feeling they're using that date as a cutoff to lump all those in with COVID deaths. And so when looking for like actual real information on the flu and flu statistics, you've got to go back at least a year, probably more. I went back to December of 2017 to look at what they were saying then, because I caught them, revamping the numbers already this year, right? So they didn't really mess with anything going back to 2018, 2017. But in December 2017, I found that posted right on the CDC website was that global death from the common flu would be somewhere between 290,000 and around 685,000. And so today, the COVID deaths as of today globally are put at 350,000. So we're talking like we're coming towards the end of like this flu season. COVID is a flu. It's a kind of flu. It should be kind of going away because of the heat in the summer, just like the flu does most of the time. And we're at 350,000 deaths, which isn't even half of the numbers that they said would possibly kill people around the world back in, late 2017. So this is the damn flu. I'm sick to death of seeing people in stores with masks, seeing people freak out. The people who die are people who would have died from the flu. This is psychological warfare. This is behavior modification. This has nothing to do with COVID. They don't even care about COVID. What this was about covering for the bailout that they did for all these bankers and industries. Like they bailed Boeing out. Why the hell did they have planes fall out of the damn sky and they bailed them out? So if I'm in America and I have a company and I build a shit product, should I just assume the government's going to bail me out? No, they're not going to. I run a small business. This week, I put in an application for a small business loan under the criteria that they were offering them. And I got rejected within like half an hour. Like what is that about?
Resubmit it, because I've had friends that have done the same thing, been rejected, resubmitted it, and got it approved.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Mm-hmm. So don't take their no as a no.
I would love to take their money and then like never pay them back because they can fuck off because they're terrorists, which is what I've done. And I don't care about my credit score because I have Bitcoin, and so I'm not really worried about purchasing things with credit or anything like that. Like there's the current system, the financial systems, like really, I've done my absolute best over the years to like have it not apply to me. And everybody can do that. Everybody can just say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Like you were saying earlier, this entire country is based on credit and fluff and money printed out of thin air. And they can't print us into salvation. They can't keep doing this. We are people who understand economics and finance. What they just did is dumping $20 trillion into the economy is like, that's it. That's the nail in the coffin. And they have to know this. And so this goes back to my theory that this is an intentional destruction of our economy by them. And they have openly written about this kind of stuff. So it's not really a shock. The time for physical revolution has been upon us for decades, and it's never going to happen. Sad.
Yeah, anything to add to that, Charlie?
Well, yeah, he's right. And this has been planned out for a long time. And the plan is to take down, to loot. There's several overlapping agendas all happening at once. One, of course, is to destroy the American empire, which I think they're well on their way of doing. And that's undeniable that is a plan that is in place. I'll get into that in my presentation. But where it does take a little bit of a twist here is the fact that I didn't see it coming in the form of a virus. I did see it coming in the form of other, components to it, but the virus kind of threw me off guard. But I did believe at least that that something would happen that would be used as the excuse for why the financial system collapses, why the stock market tanks, why this gigantic depression that was on the doorstep of happening anyway, that some event would be used as the pretext to say, well, it wasn't us bankers doing it. Yeah, we blew up the economy last time. And of course they were blowing up this everything bubble, quantitative easing and repo market repurchases and trillions of dollars going out the door. They're of course responsible for this, but I knew that there would be another reason that it would be blamed on, so that the average person would just say, well, everything was going fine until this thing came along. And I actually assumed it would be a terrorist attack. And I think actually a case can be made that the COVID-19 is a form of terrorism. It's just disguised as a virus. It is terrorism against us, being perpetrated by members of our own government, by foreign national governments as well. They're all in on this. There's an interesting story that came across today talking about the president or prime minister of Madagascar saying that their country had an herbal remedy that was sufficient to cure COVID-19, and that he personally was offered a $20 million bribe by the World Health Organization to poison their own product so that it wouldn't so that it wouldn't get out into the world that it was actually curing people. So you can look forward to that guy being dead by the end of the week. So that's a news story that just came out. So yeah, this is a staged event made to look organic by some very devious people that don't give a flying fuck about any of us and would prefer us to all get off of their planet. So they'll lie to us, they'll kill us, they'll fake that this event is bigger than it really is. There's no limits, there's no barriers, there's no line in the sand that these guys won't cross. I mean, anything is on the table. So I think that we're in a really interesting time. I also wonder, though, if maybe they overplay their hand a little bit and this winds up having the reverse effect and wakes up a lot of people. A lot of people are kind of waking up to this. I got a lot of people reaching out to me that are, normie type, that know that I'm, into this area of work. And I'll get emails from them or texts from them saying, what do you make of this whole thing? Like, they're starting to question it. And people that have never questioned the official story of anything in their life are starting to scratch their heads and go, it seems like there's something wrong with this. That you're right. You're on the right track. This is your intuition telling you that you are headed in the correct direction. You're assessing the situation properly. You are looking at this and going, this doesn't make sense. And I'm getting a bad feeling about this. That's because your subconscious is seeing the bigger picture and you are correct in that assessment. There is something going on here. It's not right. It's not organic. It's not natural. And we're being led into some dystopian future. And if we don't stand up, like Cory said, if we don't stand up right now, then there's not going to be anything left to stand up for. It'll just be us sitting in our smart cities in a 200 square foot micro apartment with Soylent Green for lunch and our job at the at Facebook factory, working for Amazon, delivering dildos to people in building. I mean, it's going to be an empty life.
You're absolutely right, Charlie, about people waking up. There are so many people connected narrative and be questioning some of the things that they're questioning. And I get so many emails a day from just different people that have just woken up and realizing this stuff. And that is the most encouraging part for me. But Cory, I want to go back for a second. I know you are huge. You're very pro Bitcoin. And with this inevitable financial collapse and inevitable probably rollout of some sort of digital currency, what do you think is going to happen with Bitcoin? Or you think that's going to be one of the main things that they're going to use? Or are they going to shut out Bitcoin and try something else? What are your thoughts on this? Is Bitcoin, you think it really is going to be safe during these times?
Yes. Now, if people are going to look at the US dollar price value of Bitcoin and try to use that as a metric for its success or not, that is the wrong metric to be looking at. You want to look at things like transaction throughput and stuff like that. You want to look at real nerd statistics. How much money is actually being transmitted through it, or how much Bitcoin is actually being utilized on a day-to-day basis. That's the kind of metric you want to look at. The price really, to us Bitcoiners, the price is really irrelevant. We're not going to see that $1 million Bitcoin for many years, but it will absolutely get there because of the fixed amount, the fact that it's the strongest computer network it's ever been. Nobody is in control. I know core developers who actually have submitted and written code for Bitcoin. They have no say in it because how the system works is the people who actually work on the code, they get their ideas either from each other or from the community. Hey, we really want this. They create it, they implement it, and then they work it into the latest Bitcoin user software, and then people can opt to use it or not use it, right? And that's how they kind of vote on it. They can either use the new.
Cory, I think there's something going on with your microphone. We can barely hear you.
Is that any better?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So basically, what was I saying?
Talking about the Bitcoin.
All right. So nobody's in charge of Bitcoin, right? So it's user adoption that decides on what features get added and don't get added. And really, other than continuing to adopt the segregated witness protocol that came out a couple years ago, which increased the block size without having to increase blocks. And you and I should do a show all on Bitcoin one day, and I can really go over the nuts and bolts of everything. But it's an amazing thing. When you come to understand Bitcoin, it really kind of seems like it's its own life form. It does what it wants to do. It doesn't give a damn if you outlaw it or ban it. You have to shut down every node and every mining unit at the same time to kill it. It'll never happen. It'll always be there. And as long as it's always there, you will always have people like me who will choose to use it over traditional financial systems. Again, I have to say, I'm not into these altcoins because they're all garbage. Bitcoin is not controlled by anyone. Satoshi released it to the wild, and over the last decade, people have chosen to work on it or not to work on it, but it's one of those things where there's nobody making decisions for it. Every other single coin that you're going to see out there, whether it's Litecoin, Ethereum, whatever, they all have a CEO because they're all companies or foundations, or they have somebody there who's making decisions. Like Vitalik Buterin is in charge of Ethereum. If that guy wakes up tomorrow and says, I was wrong, I don't like Ethereum, guess what? The price goes to nothing and nobody will use it. So one person can influence the network. And so Bitcoin, that doesn't apply. There's no person who can make a decision or make a statement in public that will affect it in any way, shape, or form. Now, you'll see the past couple of days, somebody came out with a big announcement. They've identified Satoshi, and they've identified it as a guy named Adam Back. Adam Back's been around since the beginning. I can tell you with certainty, he's not Satoshi. I know who Satoshi is. He is still around kicking. He doesn't comment much anymore on anything, definitely not as Satoshi, but do not fall for the hype of anyone telling you that they know who Satoshi is, including myself. Do your own research, and I swear it's one of the easiest mysteries in the world to figure out.
Charlie, you have any thoughts on Bitcoin and our future currency?
Well, I have a question. What is for Cory about this? What's the halving mean? What is that?
Okay, so the halving just occurred a couple days ago. It's a significant event, and it will continue to be a significant event every 4 years in Bitcoin, because when the way that Bitcoins are created is that they call it mining, but really what it's doing is you have a computer. These days, it's a very specific ASIC chip run system that basically is trying to guess a number, right? And whoever guesses the number gets the block reward. They get to create a block, and a block just logs transactions in it. But along with that, when the system launched, they would get 50 Bitcoins for one block. That dropped to 25. It then dropped to 12 and a half. Every 4 years, it gets cut in half. So now the block reward is 6.25, right? So just 10 years ago, it was 50. Now it's 6.25. So you have a diminishing creation of new Bitcoins. So in 4 more years, it'll be what, 3.125 Bitcoins per reward, right? After that, it'll be what, 1.7 something, something, something. And so it keeps getting cut in half, and it'll get to a point about the year 2140 that there will not be any more new Bitcoins created. I mean, there will, but they'll be like so small, it won't even matter. So we've got about 120 years for the remaining, I think it's only 2.5 million Bitcoins to be created. So when you look at something like gold, they don't know how much gold is out there. They think they do. They're not really sure. We could have a meteorite come strike the earth and like drop off a whole, they could double the gold supply like in an instant. So gold, if you ask me, it's really like kind of a Stone Age kind of monetary system. It's not really used as money anymore, even though like stupid people like Peter Schiff are trying to make it that way. But gold is from the Stone Age, and we live in the digital age. And really, when the shit hits the fan, nobody's going to want shiny rocks. They're going to want, food, ammunition. They're going to want some kind of currency that's not controlled by the government if there is still an internet. But even without the internet, Bitcoin can still run. There's 200 plus Bitcoin satellites in space that can function without the internet. So that's that.
So what do you thought, Charlie?
I found my as I was walking in here, my daughter in her playroom has this set up for a pet parade, and I thought I would show this to Cory. I have not mentioned anything to her about anything. This is the name she chose for it.
No way.
Wow.
I just walked by and saw it, and I was like, what does she know that I don't know? Maybe she's gotten into some of these books that I read.
I'm so anxious to talk about that, but I'm going to hold it for Forbidden Knowledge NewsCon. But like this week, I've had to like readjust my mode of thinking because, identifying who was in the book depository was fairly simple. It took a long time, but I pretty much worked out who was in the book depository. There's about 6 or 7 guys in there on multiple floors. The Daltex building, 3 or 4 people got arrested out of there. I'm still kind of lost as to who did the firing from the Daltex building. Even when I look at the pool of suspects, there's a bunch who it could have been because they, like I said before, they had assassins come in from all over the world. There was 30 plus known assassins in Texas and Dallas that day. So, it could be a number of people. I traced Dave Yaris and Lenny Patrick to Dallas, but I can't put a rifle in their hand. I can't do it. They might have been on the knoll as like supervisors because they were old school. I mean, Dave Yaris was involved in assassinations going back to Cermak and Huey Long, and damn, he was a pro by then, but he was like in his 60s, they're not going to have him shoot. He's going to be there as a supervisor. And I think I have pictures of him in Dealey Plaza, possibly behind the knoll afterwards. But like, I can't place the guy in the Daltex building. And the knoll, I was never really able to place a lot of people. I can definitely place 3 there now. There's a couple people I'm looking for. I'm still looking for Frank Sturgis. I have no evidence he was there. 0. I know he trained with the knoll shooter down at No Name Key. I have a couple documents reference to that. I can't place him in Dealey Plaza. I'm pretty sure I can place E. Howard Hunt, though. I found a picture of him, and it's pretty damn clear that it's him. And it's not the ones that everyone thinks it is. He's not one of the tramps. But yeah, there's like, as far as like who actual shooters were, other than okay, so for example, in the book depository, you have Richard Kane and you have Lawrence Howard. Those are the 2 guys who shot from the book depository on the 6th floor. Lawrence Howard only fired 2 rounds. You know how they say Oswald fired 3 shots? Well, that's been completely debunked. Actually, at the in the trial of Clay Shaw, I believe, Garrison debunked that because he had the guy who examined the rifle and the markings on the shells that came out of the Mannlicher, and he basically said that one of them was there from a previous firing that was left over inside of the rifle because of the pressure that was put on it by the bullets that was behind it. So there were only 2 shots fired from the book depository window that Oswald was said to have been in. Richard Kane was on the far side of that building, and he most likely shot Connolly. He probably is the one who shot Connolly because Connolly got shot at least 2 or 3 times. There was no bullet that struck Kennedy and went through him and hit Connolly. That's pure myth. The bullet that struck Kennedy was actually shot twice in the back. Both bullets only entered and stopped, right? They could feel both of them sitting there. They never went through him. The shot that hit him in the neck came from the front. It was probably the same shooter who put the bullet in his neck and took off his head. That's a damn good shooter. And when you find out who it is, your whole world is going to melt down because it completely upends everything. It highlights the connections between all the political stuff going on a global scale with the mob, with the CIA, with Israel, with the Cubans. The Cubans were not involved, but they were a backdrop. They were a smuggling partner for the CIA. They had all these plots to kill Castro. I think that's BS. It's a dinky island. They couldn't have knocked him off in 50 years. Bullshit. He was assisting in the smuggling of people and weapons to Israel through his ports into Haiti and then overseas. So, but when you come to realize like how embedded all these different people are, it's worse than anybody could think. It's worse than any kind of Illuminati. It's mind-boggling, because the people who are the worst criminals in the world, we have written in our history books that they were great men, and nothing could be more offensive than lying about history.
Yeah.
Very well said. Charlie, any final thoughts about financial system? Anything else before we close out for tonight?
No, I'm just interested in this conference because thanks again for inviting me to be a part of it. But I mean, I want to get into all the, I want to hear, I know I've talked to Cory about this off air about the Kennedy stuff. So I know his presentation is going to traumatize people, but you're going to love it. It's going to be for the best because, like he said, it has connections to so many components of what we're currently living through, which you wouldn't make that assumption, but it certainly does. So that'll be interesting. I want to hear about Antarctica. I'm interested in Matt LaCroix talking about, younger Dryas period things. I'm into all that stuff. So I'm going to speak and I'm going to do my thing. But I'm going to be watching everybody else too, because this is going to be, it's a great event. It's a perfect time to do it too. It gets there. We're all sort of cooped up, but you don't have to travel. For a price of $49.99, think about how much you would spend to go to a conference with travel and the time commitments and this and that, to just be able to pay it real quick, turn your computer on and have 4 days of this stuff. Good Lord, there's value there. And
Definitely.
Considering the times we're in right now, it's good for everybody to feel like they're getting their money's worth on things, because God knows we're losing money on not being able to go to work and all of the nonsense surrounding this current situation. So to be around like-minded people, even from the comfort of your own home, it's an idea whose time has come, and I think you guys might have just timed this perfectly.
And I definitely want to tell you guys about what I think is one of the best parts about this conference. If you aren't able to attend for those days, if you pay for full conference attendance, you're going to get a copy of the whole conference. We're also going to be selling each individual presentation separately. So if you're not interested in all the presenters, you can purchase each individual presentation. We're still working on the prices for that. So even if you can't be there at the time, you can still watch it afterwards. This is going to be such a great event. So many great people, some of the most brilliant minds of our time. And these presentations are going to be cutting edge. Most of these presentations are going to be information that you've never heard before. It's going to be disclosing information for the first time ever, and you get to hear it from your living room for only $50. It's going to be a great event. Cory, Charlie, thank you guys so much for coming on tonight. Help us promote this. I'm looking so forward to it. And gentlemen, have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, you too. Thanks for having me, Chris.